or just straight up shuts down during conversation. Like he doesn't allow for any continuation of understanding, of middle ground finding, of compromise. Whenever you bring something to his attention, that's a telltale sign that the relationship is not going to work. There is zero chance you're going to work if there's no ability to communicate or to resolve conflict verbally. If the only way that you guys can ever resolve conflict is just kind of forget about it, let time kind of pass, emotional dust settle, then have sex, and then just kind of move on, eventually the health of the relationship is going to deteriorate if the actual relationship itself doesn't deteriorate. So let me give you a little bit backstory. So typically we talk about communication being the thing that women need to do more of. Men cannot read y'all mind, but there's a lot of guys out there who don't communicate. And I ain't got to tell y'all that because y'all the ones who are asking me, why is it that a man will shut down? Why is it that a man will not open his mouth and say how he feels? And I'm gonna be real with you. A lot of times we like to just jump to the man being this big bad monster, but there are some times where a man will not communicate and there's a very viable or understandable reason. Like it's not always this deal breaker, but it has to get resolved. Now, again, the question was just simply, why do men shut down? It's like 4, maybe 5 reasons, but I'm gonna give you a few. We ain't gonna be here long. Normally I start from good and go to bad, but let's just start with the bad. The first reason why is because a man wants to punish you. He wants to punish you. Anytime you're asking for understanding, you're expressing yourself as a woman, you're being vulnerable with a man. So you open up and you say, this is how what you're doing affects me. This is how the way that you're talking, affects me. This is what makes me think and feel and whatever. You bringing a man into that opens you up to the ability to get hurt by whatever his response may be. And whenever a man chooses to not even honor you or dignify you with a response, he shuts down in some shape, form, or fashion. And I'll get into the types of shutting down in a second, but he shuts that conversation down. It can really hurt you. And there are some men who are really just messed up people, narcissists or whatever you want to call them, who want that to hurt. They want to punish you for dare bringing up your feelings. Maybe they want to punish you so that in the future you don't feel as encouraged to speak on what's on your mind and you just, shut up and be pretty. Or maybe it's because they want to have some type of control. Maybe they want to just lessen you as a woman. And as a woman, you become lesser whenever you feel like your feelings are lesser than his or lesser important than just keeping the peace and keeping him in a good mood. So there are some men who will use their silence as a manipulative whip that they're cracking on you anytime you have the boldness and you have the standards that you're standing for, right? Now, again, there are different types of shutting down. So don't think when a man is shutting down is strictly in the form of him going ghost or, literally being silent. Sometimes a man will shut down in the form of stonewalling, which can be verbal. Stonewalling is essentially whenever a person, this is man or woman, by the way, but when a person leaves the conversation mentally, and you could tell they checked out, whatever we've all stonewalled at some point, by the way. When a person just talking, and you stop engaging, you just waiting for them to finish, and you check out, and you just, oh, okay, well, whatever. That's stonewalling. So when a man stonewalls, when he deflects the conversation, when he changes the subject, when he calls it arguing, when you're just expressing your feelings, that's shutting down. When a man does that, sometimes, I'm not saying every time, he could be trying to punish you, teach you a lesson, inflict that pain because you're being vulnerable with him, right? Another reason why is because he hopes that him being silent or shutting down all conversation will just drive you away. Because he knows it hurts you, he's not trying to control you like in the first example where he just wants to, create a more passive or submissive, but in a very negative context, version of you. He actually wants you to leave. He wants you to burn out trying to converse with him. This is why I say don't be going through all of these 4 and 5 page letters talking about how you feel when a man clearly does not care. And you can't just say he don't care because he ain't get it right the first time. You'll see valid effort if a man cares. You'll hear a man express curiosity and a desire for understanding if a man cares. But when a person don't care, there's no point in you becoming this great debater, Harvard professor on how you feel and human psychology and whatever else. Because sometimes a man is just shutting you out just like a rope-a-dope. He wants you to get tired. He wants you to swing until you have nothing left to give. Because he's not assertive enough to say, I'm done with this relationship. I no longer want to be here. I don't value how you feel and I'm not going to change anything. So instead of doing that, he says, I'm going to let her burn out so that whenever she finally gives up, like any other self-respecting human being would do, I can blame it on her. She can have doubts that maybe she gave up too soon. That's unfortunately the leverage point of dealing with a lot of you who are fighters for your relationship. You'll fight till you have nothing no more. Let some time pass. You may get a little bit more energy, get to doubting yourself. And then that person that intentionally drove you away with their silence, with their emotional neglect, with their emotional withdrawal, will leverage that if they get bored and they want you again. Now, again, I'm going from absolute worst case scenario to not so horrible, because those are really bad, and that's definitely not every man. But sometimes a man will shut down in communication if the truth will hurt you. If he knows that the truth will hurt you, he may just stop talking, so that way he never has to live with lying to you. So he may deflect, again, stonewall. He may just try to change the conversation, because whatever it is that you asking him about, and I don't know what kind of situation this could be, but sometimes a man will shut down because the truth is already on his mind. But if he says it, you ain't gonna like what you're gonna hear. And in that case, you need something to substitute. If it's not like deal breaker, if it's not like he's shutting down whenever you ask him about him dealing with another woman, but if you're saying, hey, are you having doubts about getting married to me in a couple of months, and he starts to shut down. If you ask him, what did the doctor say? Or, there's something, do you have doubts about my mother? Do you know something I don't know about my best friend and what she's done to me? Something like that. And then another reason why a man may shut down conversation or shut down communication is because the truth hurts him. And typically this isn't just hurt. This is where a man has shame around whatever the truth is. Baby, why is it that you stopped having sex with me sooner last night? Why you ain't want to have sex with me? And the shame around that may be because his body is not functioning well right now, right? So he has ED, or he has some doubts about that. He has some type of insecurities, but he shuts down, doesn't want to talk about it, says, oh, you always arguing and nagging, oh, it ain't no big deal or whatever. Baby, why is it that when I left the house, you was at the house, but when I came home, you was still at the house? There may be shame around the fact that man just lost his job. So sometimes that man is shutting down conversation because he can't articulate with confidence whatever the truth is. It hurts him, or he has shame around it, or he's expecting some rejection from you. All right, so one more reason why a man may shut down, and I know a lot of y'all ain't gonna like this, but I'm gonna just keep it all the way real with you, is because the way that you brought whatever the issue is to him has now triggered him. It's triggered him, and it's triggered him past the point where he can regulate his emotions, control his response without making things worse. So the trigger may be totally illegitimate, where it's something from his past. You may just be talking to him in a very assertive way, but his daddy was really assertive, and his daddy was not only assertive with communication, but he was also abusive. So now when he hears assertive communication, healthy dialogue, it triggers him to where he can't handle any further continuation of the conversation. But then sometimes, ladies, don't shoot the messenger. You bring something to that man, and you out of pocket. You out of pocket with how you talking to him. You out of pocket with your language. You're belittling him. You're condescending him. You're using contempt. You're comparing him. And in that, he doesn't know how to handle that. Not because he's afraid of conflict, but because he's still thinking of the relationship that he wants to continue with you. But his response may jeopardize that. Or the current way that he knows how to respond may jeopardize that. So sometimes you'll have a man who will shut down and just take the L and just be quiet, just bite his tongue and just say, I'm not even gonna try to fight or defend myself or plead my case, because what's coming up in me right now is gonna mess everything up. And he'd just rather lose that battle as opposed to losing the war. Now, I'm not saying that's right, because if he's an emotionally mature man, he can say to you assertively what it is he's feeling, what makes him uncomfortable, or let you know that he needs a couple of minutes to gather his thoughts and then revisit the conversation, just to continue honoring what it is that you brought up to him, but also in a way that protects him and stands for his own boundaries. And if he's emotionally mature, meaning he's evolved, he's willing to lose a woman that will not respect his boundaries, that is not willing to compromise and do her part to allow healthy conversation. Because just because you talking and you accurate to how you feel doesn't mean you're engaging in healthy conversation. But again, this requires an evolved man. And of course, you as a woman to do your part, no doubt about it. But an evolved man can articulate himself, he can communicate, and he's willing to pay the price of a person that does not honor what it is he's communicating. The same way as a woman, if you're really healthy and you're confident in yourself and you are true to your identity, you're firm in that, then you're willing to communicate no matter what the price may be. If it's assertive, if it's respectful and tactful, and it's true to how you feel and where you're at, you're willing to say it and you're willing to take whatever comes with that. But sometimes you're dealing with a man that either has malicious intent or he's emotionally underdeveloped. Some of y'all who are trying to communicate with men and it feels like you're just talking to a wall, you're talking to yourself. Maybe he's not this horrible person, but you're getting nowhere with your communication. I'm talking to somebody. You're dealing with somebody who has not evolved to know how to communicate and to deal with those emotionally wounded or unhealed or open places that prevent a person from communicating or from hearing what you're saying for what it is instead of just listening to rebuttal and win the debate. Any evolved man understands that there's no winner in any type of debate. That the whole purpose of coming into a conversation where there's conflict is not to be right, but to be joined, to be closer, to be more connected, to restore intimacy. Because the intimacy is lost when there's misunderstanding. There's a wedge there because there's unsafety there. There's lack of safety there. So any evolved man is not going in trying to win the debate. If you get into a conversation with a man and his whole MO is just to defeat you or prove his point or be right, or he's being passive aggressive in the communication, in the way that he's rolling his eyes, looking the other way, trying to discourage you from even trying to frustrate you, you're dealing with an emotional adolescent. At best, maybe an emotional infant, depending on what he's doing exactly. And that's why you cannot deal with guys who are good. There are some good guys who are just emotionally much younger than you. They are not equally yoked with you. There are some good guys now, but they got like 30 or 40 more years till they catch up to you. And you ain't got 30 or 40 more years to wait for nobody to catch up to somewhere they should have been whenever they first met you. And if that's you, and you're dealing with these types of guys and not guys who are actually on your level, now the problem may be with you. And that you don't know how to attract evolved men because nobody's ever taught you. Everybody's taught you how to be an amazing woman, how to be a great catch, but not how to stand out to guys who are looking to do the catching or the types of men that you want to be caught by. So if you've never gotten taught that, I did a free masterclass called Secrets to Make an Evolved Man Crave You. And it's at the link down in the comments, so nobody has any excuse to not get these strategies that are already working for women who want an evolved man that they don't have to raise. Again, that link is in the comments. It's pinned right here down at the bottom. It's also in the caption whenever you back out. And it tells you how to recognize an evolved man and how to stand out to evolved men from your authentic self so you can stop the pattern of dealing with men who have not grown up, getting frustrated and held back in your own life because now you're trying to spend energy doing what they mama should have done, which is raise them. I know I'm hurting feelings, but it is what it is. But moral of the story is this. When a man will not communicate or does not have the capacity to communicate and he's above a certain age, I'm not saying he's stuck in his ways, but the older he is, the longer of a pattern you have to wait for that man to undo and to work out if he is even willing to grow through this whole inability to communicate. And again, I'm not saying it's a lost cause. An old dog can learn new tricks, even though we ain't talking about dogs, we're talking about men. But it's much better to just get you an evolved man who has at least gotten to a threshold where whenever you communicate to him, you don't feel like you're talking to your child. You don't feel like you're talking to somebody, and no disrespect, that's got learning disabilities. You feel like you're talking to a competent equal, if not somebody who has strengths where you're weak at. Like a man who can actually lead you, even when you guys are disagreeing with each other. And that's only going to come from an evolved man. But those are just my thoughts. Y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. If you got anything of value from this, hit that share button. Bless somebody else on your timeline. And if you're in the market for an evolved man who understands these things already anyway, he ain't perfect, but he dang sure ain't no adolescent emotionally, and he's equally yoked with you. If that's what you're looking for, and you want the strategies to attract that type of man for free, click the link that you see pinned right here. It's pinned right here by my page. It's also in the caption whenever you back out. That'll get you access to my masterclass, Secrets to Make an Evolved Man Crave You. All right? I'll let y'all be good. Peace!